getting people together every Tuesday night to talk about what's changing in demand, how companies are growing, how to think about their career trajectory and growth, how to think about entrepreneurship. We've gotten tons of awesome input, questions, dialogue from so many great people. I didn't make the count. We probably can, but I imagine more than 4,000 or 5,000 total people have attended these sessions over the past 2 years, which is amazing. I know that there's probably 300 to 500 that have been probably at more than 50 of these episodes. So a lot of people have been coming consistently. And for each of you, I think you know who you are. I really appreciate the support that you've given me. I appreciate the commitment that you've had to your own growth and excellence. I think it shows a lot about that. We started this on a whim I think I texted Gaetano on a random Thursday night. It was about a week or two into the pandemic that happened in March of 2020, and said, hey, I saw this event that they're doing for sales where they got a bunch of people together and they sort of like talked and shared ideas, and it looked pretty cool. Do you want to try and do that for marketing? I haven't seen anybody doing that. And 4 days later, we got a Zoom together. I think I was using the Apple webcam. We didn't even have a webcam. Was using Apple AirPods. We had no idea what we were doing. We had 19 people live, and we had a blast. And it worked out really great, and people loved it. And we decided to come back next week, and then we decided to come back next week. And over time, it's gotten better. You can see the production quality. You can see the amount of people that show up. You can see even the growth in me and my ability to articulate my ideas. And so I think there's a lesson there about not needing everything to be perfect in order to start something. You can actually go and do it as you learn. I think that people get caught in wanting it to be so perfect at the beginning that they never get started. And so maybe there's a takeaway for some people here that have been thinking about doing a podcast, have been thinking about quitting their job and starting their business, that have been thinking about making some type of change in their life but haven't been able to just get it started. I think that maybe there's some inspiration there for some people. It's been incredible to see over the past 2 years people that have come to this event and after 5 times have been here have left and started their own company. People that have come here and stayed for all of the episodes and have consistently grown in their career and been promoted multiple times over the past 2 years and been able to see that. To see people that have gotten promoted in their current role, to see people that have started here when they started watching making $75,000 and now make more than $200,000 and have completely changed their financial status in their life by implementing some of the strategies and by taking action. It's been great to see so many people grow and develop through this. This event was the catalyst for us to start the State of Demand Gen podcast, if you can believe that. So we didn't have a podcast when we started Demand Gen Live, and then it created, we started a podcast with the recordings, and then over time have continued to add different content, which has allowed us to be able to produce 3 episodes a week, where this will be it's so cool. This will be episode 300 of the podcast total. So we did 300 episodes of a podcast in a little over 2 years. That podcast is ranked in the top 10 in a lot of countries in terms of marketing podcasts. I know we have more than 50,000 subscribers. It's been a major driver to my personal and professional growth in life, and also a major catalyst to the growth of my company. When we started this event, Refine Labs was 4 total people, including me. And today, a little over 2 years later, we're 120 people, and I owe a lot of the content and the participation in this event and how people have supported me. I owe a lot of this to the growth of the company. And so I wanted to just say thank you for that. Some special thank yous for people. I wanted to definitely send a specific thank you to Gaetano. I think that if you hadn't said yes to doing this, then we probably wouldn't be here right now. And if you hadn't been able to, you were committed for quite a bit of time, and you didn't have to be. And so I really appreciated the genuine desire to just help people get better and spend time with people. I could definitely sense that, and I really appreciate that because it made a dramatic difference in how my life will turn out overall. And so I'll be forever grateful for you to doing that with me to begin with. To Megan for picking up the torch and probably doing 75 episodes with me and having to listen to me talk and every week Tuesday night and queue up questions for me. But I think what what you brought to this element is a lot of things, but people can really feel how you've made this into a real community. People feel how much you bring people together, care about people, interact with people, get the chat going, and turn this from a like talking head show to something that is a lot more meaningful to a lot of people. From Angelica Taylor for being able to take what we had at the beginning and turn it into the State of Demand Gen podcast and organize the events and get all the emails going out and all the administrative stuff to make this happen. It wouldn't have been able to happen without you. For Todd for coming in, Todd Klauser for coming in later and picking it up and bringing Demand Gen Live and being a host and a Q&A person in some of the satellite events that we do. And it's been really awesome to see your TikTok presence growing and marketing and all the things that you're doing here. To David and Amir, the videographers that produce the actual videos, that run the LinkedIn Lives, that cut up all of the videos later. Also to Miles Campbell, who's real talented at clipping the videos for LinkedIn and has been doing that for me since I started in LinkedIn overall. So even before this event, has been supporting all of the efforts that we do on LinkedIn, which has become a major growth channel for us. And generally and all of the people that attend here, like the people that show up live every week, that participate, that are engaged, that believe in what we're doing. Like that's why a lot of people are here, because you believe in you've seen how broken marketing is, you believe there's a better way, and you're taking this information, you're being able to either spread it with your own business at your own company or however you're using it. Appreciate all of you. For all the people that listen to the podcast live as well, that support is also I'm super grateful for the attention that you spend listening to the podcast and sharing it. And then lastly, for just all of the messages. I got another one today that almost brought me to tears from somebody that was able to double their income, which afforded them to have another child in life because they wouldn't have been able to support another child had they not been able to take some of the steps here and change their financial status. So generally just filled with gratitude. I appreciate all of you. This is a bittersweet moment for me as we close this out, but I know that there are all great things are going to come to an end, and at some point we're going to evolve this, and I look forward to how this event molds and forms into something that is unique and special on its own in the future and continues to help a lot of people get better results in their life and in their career. So appreciate all of you. Looking forward to this event so much, and thank you.
Chris, that was the perfect opening. Thank you for that. I echo all of the thank yous, especially to the Refine Labs team members. Gaetano, I want you to come on next. And you were sharing a little bit as we were getting together, but I'd love for you to just talk about your experience, share any top moments. You were integral in getting Demand Gen Live up and running. So would love to just hear any of your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Chris, I appreciate the intro comments. It's been a lot of fun, man. I get better working with you, Megan, and everybody in this crew, in this hangout, this movement. Really, this is kind of like a marketing rebellion. It's like a renaissance. I think I even said this once, but it feels like marketers kind of need to take their dignity back. Where I think maybe too often, pushed into doing things that we may not want to do in business for various reasons. And I'm sure we'll uncover some of those, but man, I've gotten better from everyone in this room. So, thank you to Chris for, nudging me to get this going, making me stick with it. Megan, for all your beautiful help through all this as well. You do a lot to make Demand Gen Live successful. So thank you for all that you do. And that, like Chris was saying, this is really about helping like everybody get better at their craft and then elevating to the next phase of their career and life, really. So the more I hear about stuff like that, the more it just brings me joy as well. Careers and life is difficult, especially in today's world where everything is very difficult, everything's competitive, everything is saturated. So marketing is getting harder, but also more fun. And so, I love the learnings and everything that we share here, the questions that come up, the topics, aside from the commitment from Chris and Megan and the Refine Labs team, I also got to say, this is good content, guys. This is excellent quality content. I'm not just saying that because I'm on it a lot. I'm saying it, period. Even when I'm not on it, I tune in. And so this is some of the coolest and most unique marketing content out there. It's just marketers in a room hanging out, talking shop. Really, it's casual, but it's powerful. And so I love everything about it. And I'm looking forward to keeping in touch with everybody once this series ends today. So I guess that's all I got. But thanks for having me be a part of this, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, G. When we get to the AMA, you're definitely going to get pulled back in. So don't go anywhere. We'll have you chime in on a few of the questions that people bring up so you can share. And I'm sure there might be some people that specifically want to get your take on something that's top of mind. I have two people that I asked to come on and just share a little bit about their experience. And these two individuals started as community members of DGL and then through over time are now part of the Refine Labs team. And I just think that's so cool that played out that way and that happened. And so I want to bring on Todd Klauser. He's taken the torch from Angelica to do a ton of the production and post-production responsibilities behind the scenes to keep this going. But Todd, you have such a great story, and you're now TikTok famous, and so I'm sure everyone wants to hear your origin story. So tell us about how you came across DGL and how things evolved from there for you.
Yeah. So real quick, not to be outdone by Omar in the 100th episode, I figured I would bring my fancy jacket. Yeah. So a little bit about my background. I got into marketing basically doing YouTube. And when I started, I was essentially making peanuts. Like I had definitely not a living wage. And I did that for a really long time. And Matthew Chanella, who's going to speak next, he was my coworker for a long time. And I always kind of viewed B2B marketing as kind of cringy, to be honest. Like I viewed it more as like scammy tactics to get people's email so we could do things that they didn't want us to do. And so for that reason, I never really wanted to go into B2B tech, but where I was at, it was a terrible culture. Like I said, I was making very poor salary. And one day Matthew, after he was no longer a coworker and he was in B2B SaaS, he reached out to me to join his podcast as a guest. And we did the podcast. His co-host was MJ Peters, who was also a Refine Labs employee. And after the podcast, he told me I should check out this YouTube channel, or he told me to check out the podcast, but being in YouTube, I found it on YouTube, and I started binge watching all of the early episodes of Demand Gen Live on YouTube. And that was kind of the point for me where I realized, maybe not all B2B tech companies out there were using this create ebooks, get people's emails through downloads so we can send it out to salespeople to cold outreach. And I reached out and I said, hey man, I think I'm ready to go into this B2B, try it out. So long story short, he set me up with an interview, which, I got that job, and I was still kind of doing the things that I didn't want to be doing, kind of like the old school playbook. So I was getting ready to leave B2B, SaaS, to go back, not the same company, but the industry I was in before. And I saw the opportunity come up at Refine, and, kind of on a whim, like it was just like the quick LinkedIn application. And I shot MJ a DM saying, hey, I applied for this job. Didn't really think I would get it, but it was like one of those things like, yeah, whatever, like what's the worst that could happen? And literally, like, I think the whole process, the interview process, was probably like a week and a half. Like it was just a super quick process. And once I got here, it's like everything that, we talk about, from like culture to how we do marketing, everything once you're in the company is the exact same as what we preach on the outside. So I just want to thank Chris, Megan, everybody else Gaetano, who has put together this community, because if it wasn't for those initial YouTube videos that came out, I would probably still be in the welding industry making next to nothing. And now I get to show up at work every day and just do what I love. So
thank you so much, Todd. I love your story, and we all want to be like you on TikTok. So keep crushing it. And thank you for all that you do behind the scenes for the Refine Labs content engine. It's much appreciated. And I know there's a ton of work that goes into it. And you kind of alluded to it, but I'd love to bring on Matthew. The world is so small. Like when you talk about these stories and how you and Matthew were connected, and he brought you here, and now Matthew joined the team as well. And so everyone on this call knows Matthew. He was DGL guest #1, has come every week, official chat host. I get mad when he can't come if he's taking care of his kids, because then me, Jess, or Ashley have to pick up the slack in the chat. So Matt, I'd love for you to come on and just share a little bit about your experience. I hope your girls are okay right now. I'm getting you unmuted. Sorry. Didn't time that perfectly well. My God, there's too many people here. Here we go. Did I get you?
Yeah, you got me. What's going on, everyone? How y'all doing? Yeah, so, oh man, how far can I take this back? So I think it was, I was a late starter into marketing. Like, not everyone knows this, but I didn't start marketing until I was 30 years old. I worked in government contracting for 7 years before I ever even stepped foot into marketing. And it was to the point that I actually had to go to grad school to get a degree, to get a marketing job, because I was making too much money. I was making too much to do an entry-level job just to break into marketing. I had a kid at the time and was married and had a house. And so, I got my first job. It was in the welding industry. It's how I got hooked up with Todd. I did for a couple of years, was running a lot of the HubSpot playbook, a lot of the Marcus Sheridan content strategy playbook. It had got me to a certain point, but I eventually saw, when I was looking kind of in my CRM and in my analysis, that it was, it wasn't working that well. Sorry, my daughter's sneaking up right now. And yeah, I ran into Chris's content on LinkedIn in November of 2020. Yes, baby, you okay? Oh no. I'm gonna try to finish this really quickly. And so when Chris started DGL, I was like, I've been following him already for a few months on LinkedIn, and I knew he was the smartest guy I've been reading for months at that point. And just getting the chance to follow his stuff. I mean, I learned more from DGL, from Gaetano and from Chris in the first 6 episodes of DGL than I learned in 2 years of grad school, getting a marketing degree. Like, the stuff that I was learning and instantly applying was was just paying dividends for me immediately. I was seeing it play out. And to the point where I recognized that where I was at, I'd kind of reached a ceiling. And so I had a chance to move on to a fintech company, which some people know about. And even though it didn't work out, Chris even consulted me on that journey. He talked to me on the phone about it, kind of walked me through the pros and cons of it. And I went ahead and I went ahead and took the leap. And even though it didn't work out, it helped crystallize for me what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do in my marketing career. And so I went to an agency. Thank you, sweetie. I went to an agency and ended up being able to run a lot of Chris's playbook at the agency that I was at previous to working at Refine. But I've been angling to work with Chris basically from the moment that I saw his content. I just never thought I was good enough. And I basically just put myself in positions from that point on, from the first time I saw Chris's content, the first time I was on DGL, first time I heard Gaetano talk about SEO. I just angled for chances to even get a chance to work at Refine Labs. And so I finally took that step earlier this year, even though I didn't feel totally ready. But basically was able to get through the whole interview process thanks in large part to what I was absorbing from Chris and Gaetano and practicing and putting into my own strategy and tactics. And look, I mean, I'll just be real. I mean, when I started listening to Chris's content, I was a $70,000 a year marketer with 3 years of experience running gated ebook downloads. And I was a band of one with the sales team of 20. And now I work in one of the most cutting edge, revenue accelerating companies in the world, in my opinion. And, Chris didn't just change the trajectory of my career. Chris and Gaetano, I gotta give Gaetano a huge amount of credit for that too, man. You guys changed the trajectory of my life. I mean, I don't think I would be making nearly as much as I would be making right now. I don't think I would be nearly as set up for my career as I am now. The things that I'm learning right now are things that are gonna not just, keep me employed. They're gonna put food on my plate. They're gonna help pay for my kids' tuition. They're gonna, allow me to do things in my life that I just didn't think were possible 5 years ago. And a lot of it is just due to what I was able to absorb here, the friends I've made here. I've made lifelong professional friends, people like Ashley and Jess and David, people who I have like little LinkedIn group chats with, people who I've pursued hiring at previous stops, like people who will be, colleagues of mine and professional friends of mine for the rest of my life. Like when I think about community, this is everything that community is and should be in a professional space. It's educational, it's highly valuable, but it's fun, and that's what it should be. Community should be about fun and be about learning and enjoying the process. And I just give major kudos to Chris and Megan and Angelica. Especially someone like Angelica, who was like kind of in the background putting a lot of this together when it first started. Just you guys have done an amazing job just putting this together and making this sustainable and just showing up every week for us. And it's grown. I mean, Todd and I are two of dozens of stories that probably exist amongst this community who have improved their lives and improved their outlook because of what you did simply to show people a better way to do what they do every day. Because everyone craves to being the best at what they can do. At least everyone here does, I believe. And, y'all have provided a conduit to make that happen for us. And I'm just incredibly appreciative and in depth for it.
Matthew, that was amazing. Give your daughter a big hug for all of us. That was she might have upstaged you a little bit. We're not mad that she came in to steal the show. And yeah. I so appreciate all your kind words, and this community would not be the same without you. You played such an integral part in making it what it is, and so happy to have you now on the Refine Labs team.
Yeah.
I've got two more special guests that I had to bring on tonight before we move into the AMA. And so another DGL favorite who comes all the time. And what I love best about you, David, is you always have really thought-provoking and challenging questions for Chris. I think you really help him sharpen his perspective. You really ask questions to really get more really interesting and important insights out of him. And I'm so happy to have you on tonight, just for you to share a little bit about your experience and your story on DGL.
Well, I don't mean to be challenging, but I do love the answers that I get. So thank you. And thank you for such a kind introduction. This has got to be going on more than 2 years, though. I mean, I think isn't it more like 2.5? I don't know. It feels like it's been going forever.
2 months or 2 years and a couple months. Yeah.
Yeah, March 2020. Yeah.
That's it, right? So I don't know. I don't know if I was on the very first one, but pretty quickly, once I discovered them, this has been such a wonderful place for me as a marketer to discover and to grow within myself as well. You know, we've learned new terms thanks to this community. I've bought T-shirts because of this community, right? There we go. Right. We talk about dark social because of this community. We had the attribution mirage phase for a while because of this community, right? We've understood the difference between demand creation and demand capture because of this community. Self-reported attribution. You know, how many of us had an open text field on our intake forms that said, how did you hear about us before? Probably not so many, right? And many of us now probably do. So this has really changed our vocabulary almost, this community. My wife knows about this community because on Tuesdays we eat dinner at a slightly different time so I can be here, right? Perhaps some of you have got that kind of thing happening in your lives too. So already there's been lots of thank yous, and I'm probably just going to be repeating some that I had planned here before. Thank you to Chris, right? For sharing your knowledge and your insights, for helping us all feel like we're not crazy, because you've articulated so well and so passionately and so articulately many of the truths that we've all seen pieces of during the course of our demand creation lives. So thank you for putting voice to the thoughts in our heads that never quite came out as smart or as smartly as you are able to articulate them. So that's a huge thing for all of us to be able to have, is that sense of community, knowing that we're not alone. Thank you to you, Megan, right, for the warm and inviting tone that you set so that everyone, regardless of their backgrounds or experiences, feels comfortable asking their question and knowing that they're appreciated. So that's a real talent, and that's not easy. So I recognize and want to really appreciate that. I think we all appreciate that, any of us who have come on. Perhaps being a little nervous. Is my question valid? Does it make sense even? I don't even know if I understand my own question, right? So you make it okay for us to kind of just come out and say some things. This is, and to Angelica, I had a note for Angelica as well, because I know that in the background, she's been part of this process, but of course I don't know the rest of the names of the cast and the crew who's been involved as this has grown and grown. But your expertise in putting together the sound and the visuals and all the kind of snips that we get to see in the following weeks and months and LinkedIn actually is super valuable to us all as well, right? To me, this has become kind of my Cheers. If any of you are familiar with the American TV show Cheers, right, where everyone knows your name, which I guess would make Chris Sam Malone somewhat. You know, the Ted Danson character, right? And there is a baseball kind of tie-in there, I think, right? Chris, you're kind of into baseball, right?
I was.
You were? Okay, fair enough. But you've both got gray hair, so that's good too.
I like that one.
So I'll go with that, right? Which, Megan, that might make you a kind of combination character between Shelley Long and Kirstie Alley, but better than both. Okay, all right. And I don't know what that means for me. Perhaps I'm Norm or Cliffy or Dr. Fraser Crane, I don't know. But anyway, it's a welcoming place, and as a marketer, it has helped me feel more confident about my own marketing beliefs, my own marketing. It has helped refine, no pun intended, of course, my thinking and my approach to how I view marketing challenges. You've given me a toolbox and a way of articulating this that is helpful to me in my day, in my work, as I speak with other people. So this has all been a tremendous opportunity to grow and to learn and to share. And as Matthew was saying, to make, you know, snarky comments in the chat and other places that you don't see. Because this is the best snarky comment environment that I've come across in the marketing world. So thank you very much for all of that too. So anyway, that's me. The people who I've met through this, the folks who I've been able to share a marketing hat with along the way. Hats unite, right? Excellent. There we go. Look, see, everyone's got something to talk about. We've all got hats. So, Chris, I know that you're not particularly the kind who would wear a hat like this. Otherwise, I would have gladly sent you one, but didn't want to kind of make you feel as if you'd be forced or uncomfortable wearing it. There we go. Okay. So, anyway, thank you all. I will miss this. I will hopefully catch you all on the next phase of this journey that you have started. I know it needs to move to another time for various reasons, and I hope I'll be able to make that too. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, David. I love my marketing hat. My dog bit it though, so I might need to ask you for a new one, but you probably can't tell on Zoom. Also, the community has spoken. You are Frasier in the Cheers analogy, for the record.
Well, I think that's probably better because I got a show at some point, and at least I wasn't Norm or Cliffy.
And I'm so excited to bring one more community member on tonight. This particular one always makes me laugh, and always get a great DM from her every week. And so, Jess, welcome to the show from down under in Australia. I would love. I can't wait for what you're gonna say.
Were you on episode 1, by the way?
No, I joined, I think, June. So this is my 100th episode.
Amazing.
Oh.
I wish I wore my marketing hat now. Dave spent enough postage to send it all the way down here. All right. So like a lot of people here, I've made a lot of great friends in this little community over the last 2 years. We've even done some work with some of them. I think we've made a lot of puns, and we've had a really great time in the chat while Chris was trying to concentrate. I kind of feel like, I don't know about anyone else, but we've felt like we've really gotten to know Chris over this time. Like 2016 was definitely a big year in the medical devices world. But yeah, Megan asked me to say some words, so I thought maybe as a consequence of DGL, I'd go through some of the stuff that you wouldn't have been able to see because you're the one that was doing most of the talking. So yeah, I first joined around June of 2020. I think for the first 6 months or so, I took a lot of notes. I remember Gaetano's terrifying rapid fire interview questions for an SEO specialist. I don't know if anyone else remembered that, but it was great. So I started executing some of the stuff that I learned at the place that I was working. They didn't really get marketing though. I just successfully managed to do a lot more social posts that were getting a lot more engagement because there was more educational content without having that sales pitch, and I could sort of prove that that was working. And then I conveniently got made redundant, which kind of was fortunately put me in a position where I could be really picky about what I wanted to do next. So I was really looking to find a CEO who understood marketing. When I had the second interview at the place that I am now, he wanted me to talk through my first 90 days. So I put together this deck, which was essentially the Refine Labs playbook. And I did give you credit in it, but it was, you know, split funnel, podcast, educational, social content, like all the hits. And I had some examples in there of what I'd done at the previous place with the posts that were doing well and could sort of show some numbers. But yeah, he was pretty bowled over and pretty much offered me the job then and there. But yeah, so we're like a really small bootstrapped B2B SaaS. So obviously I wasn't in a position to be able to afford Refine Labs. I'm a one-man band, but the CEO is also the SME, and he's really comfy talking on camera and was totally on board to go for it because they'd never had any luck with social. So since I started out by talking to as many customers as I could. We removed all of the gates from web content, added the "How did you hear about us?" field on the forms. I spent a chunk of time fixing what our demo process is, a calendar booking system in, put some clear pricing on the website, kind of all that bottom of funnel stuff. I moved money out of things that weren't working. We had a lot of Google ad broad match keyword with no buying intent, which produced a lot of clicks and not much else. I took the CEO out of doing another trade show booth and looked for some speaking opportunities instead. We sort of went narrow on who we serve. So I guess a shout out to April Dunford in the podcast episode, I think, on positioning. And then, yeah, a few months ago, we started our podcast. We're about 8 episodes in. It's been really excellent, even just from like a networking standpoint, if nothing else. And the CEO has really been enjoying these discussions. From that, I then put together a bunch of video clips for him to use on LinkedIn. So he gets excited and goes and writes his little post, and we started to get a lot more engagement with it and started to get some like longer comments from people who are in our ICP. So yeah, he's really thrilled with it, and he's increased his follower numbers. And yeah, so in conclusion, thanks.
Jess, that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And you and David and Matthew, I think, all have contributed to our fun joking. If you saw the sizzle reel, we have lots of inside jokes about ferns. Got to get in the chat if you want more. But you always make me laugh, Jess. Every single week, you make me smile. And so thank you for sharing your story and for being a part of the community. And so happy that things are going well at your current company and that you're able to apply all these tactics and see them work. All right, team, we are wrapping up our community stories, and I want to open it up to a final AMA on the last DGL. A few of you sent over questions to me, and so Uma, Isar, Nelson, I'm going to bring you on in that order next. I promised a special swag offer, and so I'm dropping a form in the chat right now. We have 25 really cool swag boxes on DGL left. If you want one, click on the form and fill out your information. I think we can only ship to the US. You need permission? Okay, I'll get you guys. Don't worry. I thought I tested it. My bad. Uma, you had a really great question though around demand gen for category creation, and you're also been a longtime community member. So I wanted you to come on and kick off our AMA. So Uma, I'm going to bring you on. Don't worry, guys. I'll get you the updated form. Hey, hey.
Hey, hey. I am honored.
Hey, Uma. Good to see you again.
Good to see you guys. Okay, so like everybody else, DGL really has transformed my thinking, and I keep referencing, have you heard what Chris Walker and Megan said? We should be doing that quite frequently in my meeting. So I think I started this journey with you guys when I was laid off from my previous company. I landed somewhere, I did good stuff there, and then I needed to leave that place. And so I'm in a much better company in terms of culture. The role was always great, but in the previous one, but the culture was a misfit. Anyway, yeah, so this is the theme for my company. I joined Shoreline.io. They are creating a category in instance management, and this is my first time marketing to DevOps, and also helping a company create a category. So I wanted to understand, so what it means is that we don't really have a direct competitor, and it also means that there is a problem. It's a well-known problem, but nobody has thought of solving this till the founder, who used to manage the instance management at AWS, realized that there was a big potential market for that. So he started the company, created the entire AI-enabled incidence management software solution. So the problem is we don't have a competitor. There is a problem, but people are not thinking about the problem that they need to solve. They just learn to live with it. We do have some customers, and then from all the interactions that we are hearing from the customers, they really like our solution, but there is some hesitancy in adoption. So I want to pick your brains on how do I creatively approach this. One of the key things that I heard from talking to an expert was that don't bother about LinkedIn ads because the DevOps, they're not here. They're more in Slacks and Dark Social and in all those communities. So talk tech to them in those Dark Social. So that's where I am right now.
Cool. G, I'll get started. You can weigh in as well. So this is the typical like category creation, new innovation dilemma. The dilemma is you have something new and innovative that nobody knows about and therefore doesn't know that they need it or want it. So you have no competition, but you also don't have any people that are coming in looking to buy your stuff. And so when you make this move and you are deciding that you're going to either because your product is so differentiated or because you're trying to position differently or whatever, for whatever reason you're trying to create a new category, the only option is to create demand. There's no demand to capture. So spending time in Google and review sites and making your website really nice and things like that are going to have a marginal impact because people aren't looking, right? To how are we going to actually create demand? It gets a little bit more custom for you because of the target demographic that you're going after. But broadly, it's how do we get a bunch of these people to understand that this problem is a problem? We can tell, they'll be able to understand the symptoms of the problem. We'll be able to tell them what their metrics in their dashboards look like because we understand the problem so well and we've seen customers, so we know what the problem looks like and we can help them identify it. We can explain to them and help them understand that they probably have tried these solutions already that didn't work. We need to explain to them that we truly understand what it's like in their situation. Once they understand all those things, then we need to be able to help them understand that there is a solution out there and explain how it's going to actually work. In order to do all that stuff, you need people to be paying attention to you for an extended period of time. In order to get a person like a DevOps person to pay attention to you for an extended period of time, you got to provide enormous value that they can't get it in other places. I think that when targeting this audience, a lot of people move into a community and event strategy like what we've done at Refine Labs. I think that would be a great strategy, which would allow you to create information and content that then can be amplified with media on channels like Reddit. I would, just because people have said don't use LinkedIn, I think that you should still try it. Like if you run it, you'll get impressions there. Maybe, and who knows who gave that advice, right? Like we run to DevOps on LinkedIn. There are recorded impressions. I don't know well enough the data to be like really confident that's the number one channel that you should use. I just don't look at it in that much granularity anymore. But we serve impressions on LinkedIn, so people are there. And a lot of people are just using it for lead gen. And if you're using it for lead gen with content that sucks to get a DevOps person to download an ebook, which is what 99% of companies do, then yeah, LinkedIn's not going to work. But I wouldn't write that off. So Reddit, I would try like all of the main available channels, but I think that Reddit could be a real winner for you. Yeah. And I think that the podcast and community stuff would work. So organic, a content podcast strategy, a community, which you're going to need somebody that's a DevOps leader if it's that narrow, or a technology leader if it's not as narrow, to be able to be in there and actually lead it. So if you have that person and you can think about it in your head and you can get them on board, that's what you're going to need in order to actually make that successful and work. I think that owned is the play here, not going into other communities and trying to be a part of it. I think that you can do that too, but I think that owning it is the play. And people need to be in the community and on board because they believe in your company's point of view about where the DevOps world is going, right? That's why all the people are here right now, right? So you can almost look at the exact same parallel of what we did at Refine Labs in 2 years ago and still today. Most people that do marketing do not believe in the things that we believe in, do not believe in the way that we do it, right? I would still consider what we're doing highly disruptive and innovative and pretty low on the overall adoption curve in the grand scheme of the tens of thousands of SaaS companies out there. Not many of them have actually implemented it. So 2 years ago, it was like almost nothing, right? We had to create demand from scratch. Otherwise, people would still be talking about their MQLs and doing all the things that we sort of helped them see a different way to solve. So I think there's a lot of parallels. You could just look at what did Refine Labs do, and you're going to have to mold it a little bit differently to your audience of the content strategy, who's participating, what channels you're using, things like that. But the overall thing is moving into a pure demand creation strategy.
Yeah, and Chris, you just so pointedly mentioned we are looking for a DevOps evangelist. So any of you who know a good DevOps evangelist who has on-call experience, ping me. We are really looking for someone who's technical and social. So thank you, Chris. Everything that you talked about does resonate. And on the LinkedIn strategy, what even I was thinking that instead of doing bottom of the funnel lead capture, just use it more as an awareness channel. But rightly, as you said, our keyword searches is really low. So search ads and all is not bringing us much of a traction. Yeah, so I'm gonna look at what you're saying. I do believe that the dark social and owning our own community is the way for us to go. So thanks for that affirmation. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thanks, Uma. I'll bring Isar on. Let me know if I pronounced it correctly.
Close enough, Isar.
Isar, thank you for correcting me. So I'd love for you to ask your question live. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I usually let my better half ask the questions. I'm Pablo's business partner, so I send the smarter, more beautiful guy to ask the questions usually, but now I get to go as well. I was really curious. You shared many times, Chris, and you too, Megan, on what services you provide to your clients and how like first month looked like, second month, first quarter, kind of like the things. But I'm very curious about the things you do not do for them. So all the things you do for yourself, the live show, the repurposing of the content, the production of events, how do you help them close that gap? Because obviously you're suggesting they will do that, but many organizations do not have the skills that you have in-house. What's the process that you're taking them or guiding them through the process of doing the things that you do so effectively?
I'll take this one just given, I was going to pass this to G, but it doesn't really make sense given the context of the question, so I'll take this one. The reason that some of our customers don't do the activities that we're doing right now have nothing to do with not knowing how to do them or not having the resources to do them. It's because they don't prioritize them in their business. And there are very few of our customers that actually execute a full marketing strategy the way that I would want them to do if I was their CMO or if I led their demand team. So it's like there's an element of needing to do, like, have the desire in your business to take this seriously and be committed to it and do it. And if you have those elements, you don't need our team's help to do that. We can guide you, we can answer your questions, but like showing up on a Zoom like we're doing right now, getting people on, recording it requires commitment, subject matter expertise, and customer focus. That's it. There's no secrets thing about how we set up the Zoom and record it, right? We set up the Zoom and we hit record. When we're done, we use a firm that's noted in our podcast and they edit it, and it takes like 5 minutes and it's super cheap. And then we take the video and we cut it up and we put it on LinkedIn, and somebody could look at the format and easily replicate it when they sell to DevOps or finance or a CISO or a CEO or whoever they're targeting. So for me, this is one person's opinion, it has nothing to do with the resources or not knowing how to do the stuff. It's truly about not being committed to the strategy, not believing in the strategy overall, or not being customer centric enough to put on an event that your customers actually like. So and in my experience, because we previously have offered things like this, in my experience, people that don't do it and start to do it very quickly realize how much work it is and give up before they get to a level of results that matter. And so from my experience, it's just not a good business to be in. So I love to provide advice, like I'm going to do one on Thursday, to one of our customers that's committed to it and being successful and has done 10 episodes and is chopping up videos and things are working. I'm pumped to spend an hour with them and get them to accelerate and go faster. But getting someone from 0 to 1 is not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in getting them from 5 to 50.
Great answer. Thank you.
Good to have you. I love that you're Pablo's business partner. It's good to meet you. Okay, I've got a great question from Nelson that both Gaetano and Chris, you can weigh in on. So Nelson, I think your question is good, and we can get both of them to chime in. Bringing you on next. There's 130 people here. I'm scrolling through to unmute. Welcome, Nelson.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. So, yeah, big thanks to the Refine Labs crew, to Chris, to Gaetano. Learned so much from you guys. And the question I have for both of you is, what is one key marketing lesson or highlight from marketing Refine Labs, or for Gaetano, from your experience with Refine Labs and how that's translated to your career, that you can share? Maybe walk us through what you learned and what were the results after implementing the solution.
Take it away, G.
Yeah, I don't know if I have like a very specific scenario, Nelson, but I think over time, what I've kind of absorbed, maybe I've even absorbed it, without realizing it, is the power of video. I see Chris, I see Refine Labs very consistent with video content, and they're not chasing the big numbers. Like there's a lot of people out there that are using, for example, like the worst corporate buzz, jargon phrases to avoid, and those posts go mega viral, for example. But Chris and team are more focused on reaching the right audience, telling the message that matters to those people, and filtering out the noise, which kind of reminds me a lot in companies. I think Rand Fishkin called it the Wall Street marketing problem, the Wall Street Journal marketing problem. Somebody called it that, where you can show your company that you got a mention in some massive tier 1 PR destination, and everybody will clap and go nuts. But how many of those readers were actually relevant to your business? Very few. And so I think what I learned from Chris and the way that Refine Labs goes about operating their business, and I guess you can even call this part of their go-to market, is the consistent and effective use of video. And what do you need to be consistently producing video in an effective way? And I think the misconception is that you need a camera crew, you need cool lighting, you need a good microphone. Yeah, all that shit helps a lot. But what you actually need more than anything is the subject matter expert. So like what Chris was saying to the woman before that had a question about DevOps. So Chris already hit that. You need a subject matter expert, but then you need a subject matter expert that can articulate the subject matter. That's what you need. And the reason why a lot of companies don't have great video marketing programs is because they don't have the subject matter experts. And if they do have them, they're usually unwilling or unable to articulate the story. And so with all of that being said, what is the point? What is the takeaway? It's that if you can align subject matter expert to articulation, to video, and consistent performance, consistent quality, and finding the topics. And this is the final piece, is finding the actual topics that your audience cares about. getting in there and really finding out whatever it is that, not everybody else is talking about. What are all the typical companies saying? You got to go deeper. You got to get the long tail. How do you deliver that stuff in a video message? Man, I think when you can do that, that's quite powerful. It's a way to be more memorable. You last longer in people's brains. When people see your next video, they're more inclined to want to watch it because they're expecting something great. All of these things you can not achieve as effectively with written content. And so I think I already said enough, but video is powerful when you can do it right. So that is my big takeaway and marketing lesson learned from the Refine Labs experience and the Demand Gen Live experience, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, that's similar for me, G. I'll put up a different answer just to keep it going, but I hadn't done tons of video. When I worked at Vapotherm, we had done maybe like 20 video podcasts over the 2 years that I was there, but nowhere near the amount of social distribution and micro content and really getting into those details, and have totally transformed and seen the power of it. So that's one thing. And the reason that I didn't do it earlier, just so people understand, is because if you run social with video, the metrics look worse than running pictures and text. And so in 2017, 18, I hadn't figured that stuff out yet. So I continued to avoid video because you get a lower click-through rate, you get less clicks. The metrics that you're trained to look at as a marketer don't look as good because people are consuming the video in the feed and don't need to click. And so as I've continued to think through it and had more and more supporting data and more experience working with tons of companies, you just see patterns. And I've done it myself for my own business. You see patterns and you realize that a lot of the metrics that people are trained to follow and I used to follow sometimes don't lead you to the right conclusion. For me, I saw a post a couple of weeks ago when I was on vacation in Europe, which was amazing, by the way, that was referencing something about how I created a point of view, and what they talked about was create the point of view, do customer research, and then blah blah blah. And when I read that, it's actually the reverse. If you think back to how we got here, I did tons of customer research, which allow me to create a point of view that resonates with people. Because I've talked to 50 CMOs and I know what problems are going on, and I've noticed the patterns, and I've asked why they can't solve it, what they've tried, how it didn't work, what tools they've used, things like that, which then lead me to the point of view. And so the learning here is that, and then it's been customer research, a lot of it, develop a point of view, communicate it to a community and social, which allow you to collect insights at scale, which give you customer research, and you do a loop. And over the past 2 years, we've been able to rapidly accelerate the messaging of our company, the positioning of our business, forming what the actual category that we're creating are as we move away from being an agency. There's a lot of really good things that have happened by using this loop. And so the key learning for me, and the fact of the matter is, when it comes to messaging and positioning and a strategic narrative and things like that, a lot of marketers and a lot of executives that do it leave out the idea that we actually need a ton of customer insights in order to do this effectively. So customer research allows you to create the point of view, and then you need to use the point of view and communicate it to refine it. And by having a community and an audience, you get tons of great clean data and insights that allow you to refine it. So that would be the key learning that I've had so far.
I love it. 2 awesome answers. Nelson, you have a follow-up. Of course you get a follow-up. Please, welcome back.
Nice, thank you. I'm trying to get as much as I can out of this last one, so I'll see what I can get. But yeah, thanks guys for those answers. I would just one quick add to Gaetano, and then a follow-up question for Chris. I'd also say, Gaetano, probably audio is also big in addition to video. Just hearing your voice and audio content is massive, and people can just churn through that as well on demand. And then for Chris, I was wondering, is there an example from Refine Labs' own marketing for maybe your positioning, messaging, or your tactics where you use that customer research and insights to then inform something that you did, and that was like a aha breakthrough moment that led to a lot of results, and that really meshed well with the market and did great for you guys. So maybe that's like to David's point, maybe the attribution mirage, or
yeah, that's exactly where I was going. Right, in 2019, summer of 2019, which was 3 years ago now, around this, I had no employees at the company. No one worked at the company except for me, and I was having CMOs or VPs of marketing at B2B SaaS companies on my podcast, and I was talking to them about what was a challenge and things like that. And for the past 3 years, while I've talked to CMOs, while I've had tons of people on this podcast, while I've worked with CEOs and CROs and CMOs and marketing people, all the way down to demand gen managers and specialists, huge companies that have 50,000 employees and everything in between, every company struggles with attribution. And so within the first 3 months of doing this, there was a huge insight that has continued to be validated over and over, but a huge insight that companies struggle with attribution, right? So that's the initial insight, right? Which creates a point of view. Attribution is not correct, but in my position on attribution in 2019 versus now has gone through tons of turns with help of this community, with help of how we implement with customers, where we went through a place where we started to use custom conversions inside of paid social channels like Facebook and Instagram, which was a major unlock, which was basically proving that the people that were seeing the ads inside of an Instagram ad were converting on demos within 3 to 7 days for 30K, 50K ACV products, to the tune of like 70 a month, non-direct response, which means that they saw the ads, thought about it, got people on board, and came back on their own, which is a much higher intent conversion, which leads to better overall pipeline velocity and sales win rates. Anyway, so we move custom conversions. Then iOS 14 comes in. iOS 14 destroys the use of that tool to measure success. And then we got to continue to adjust. Then we continue to adjust. We arrive at self-reported attribution. That has been working well. We get some feedback from the market. Now it's evolved into hybrid attribution, which uses multiple sources. And it's an ever-evolving thing, which is like create an insight, try some things, get customer feedback. The market moves and changes, right? And we have to evolve the product around attribution to a level now where I'm highly confident that we have a solution that is now being put into a Salesforce managed package and a SaaS front end that came from, there's an insight about attributions not working to, before the end of this year, we're going to have a commercial product that solves this for people. And so that's an example of how we've gone through this progression, and that's what my company does, right? Like, people think that we're out there just like running ads. What we do is we look across an entire set of like 50 companies that we work with right now. We see consistent problems. Because we have scale, we're able to see patterns. We're able to innovate significantly faster because of the recognition of patterns and the scale. So we see it's not just working in a sample size of one, it's working across the board. And so it allows us to create new innovation, new frameworks, things like that can help a lot of companies.
That's awesome. I have to get in the next question for Grant. He had to go and hop on a call. I was hoping to get him on because he has an awesome question. Makes me think of Christopher Lochhead, and I want both Gaetano and Chris to get your take on this one. And so he's asking about the concept of damming demand. Why do you break out damming demand from capture and create demand? Is it typically using the same tactics, but a different story? For example, use paid search, it's just different keywords you're bidding on, or execute paid social, but lean into a different story and message in what you're promoting. So I'd love to get your take on this topic. Who's going to take it first, Chris or G?
All you, man, if you want to.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I'll take a stab at it, and I'd be curious to hear Chris's commentary as well. So there's some things that like you don't do demand creation in. I remember I was advising a publicly traded company, and I took a look at their Google ads, and I saw a lot of money being spent on gated ebook downloads, and I was speechless. I was like, you guys know that this is not how you use Google Ads, right? You guys know that this is how you lose a lot of money, and this is how you waste a lot of time and resources and effort. And they were just so confused. So that's first things first. I think is like not all channels can be used for multi-purpose demand capture and demand create. So you gotta think about that strategically. Then I think the other part of the question, Megan, was like, how do you break it out specifically? Like for SEO, how might you do it? For paid social, how might you do it? Is that kind of the angle of the question?
Yeah, I think the crux of it is damming the demand strategy different from create or capture demand, or is it just a different flavor of one of those? I think that's kind of what he's getting at. Is this truly a unique strategy execution, or is it just a different version perhaps of creating demand?
I don't know. For me, I always see it I see it quite clearly. There is some blurriness and some overlap, but I always see it quite clearly from demand capturing versus demand creating. And whether you want to look at it in terms of keywords, whether you want to look at it in terms of audience types or audience segments, you can do it any way you want. But the reality is that it's, you have some industries like the woman was talking about, where there is no demand to be captured. Just like Refined Labs, there is no demand to be captured for you guys in terms of like search. Like nobody searches for like demand gen agency. So I don't know. For me, I'm always gonna stick to my method of keyword intent based strategies. I really like that. That kind of, when you get behind and this is assuming that there's demand to be captured, but I like sticking to what's the intent behind this keyword as the method for kind of thinking about how is this demand capture versus demand create. You can also do it by channel, but I like to really stick with keywords and find the intent behind keywords as like my main thing that I like to drive a lot of the strategy from. But Chris may have a different take.
Cool. Yeah, I interpreted the question a little bit differently, so I'm going to go in a slightly different direction here. I'm going to define all three of them: create demand, capture demand, and dam demand. Create demand, someone is not solution aware, they're not problem aware, they're not thinking about your category, and you need to go out and educate them on the problems, the solution, to a level where they have demand and they're going to go and look and have intent to go and look to buy something. That's creating demand. Capturing demand is once that demand has been created, they're going to go to certain places like Google, review sites, other things like that, where then they show intent and you can capture that demand and convert it into revenue. And then there's a third piece where someone is looking for something else that's different than you, right? So demand has been created for a different category than what you're selling, and you stop them in that capture demand cycle and say, you thought you were looking for this thing that you're looking for right now, but what you actually needed was this. You thought that you were looking for a broom, but what you actually need is a vacuum, right? Something like that redirects the demand that's been created for something to something else. You could do that with toothpaste. You can do that with, you thought you were looking for a growth marketing agency, but what you actually needed was this. There's a lot of different ways to dam the demand, but that it's different because in capturing demand, the demand has been created for something, and then you're competing against other vendors for the demand of an existing category. In damming the demand, you're redirecting somebody from looking from one thing to something else, which makes it can be more challenging. It also can be very advantageous, right? So Peloton's a good example, right? People are looking to go to a spin studio to spin, and Peloton can dam that demand and say, why don't you spin in your living room? So there's a lot of ways to do that. It's probably the least understood of the three dimensions of demand strategy, and probably the least practiced. but can be highly effective, especially for companies that are creating a new category that is parallel to an existing category, like moving from a at-home fitness against a in-studio fitness or things like that.
Awesome. All right. Brand's gonna catch that on the episode when we publish it tomorrow. I've got a couple of longtime DGL community members lined up next. Carl, I want to bring you on next. It's been a minute. I'm so glad you made it to the last episode. It's so good to see you, Carl.
Oh, there's no way I would kind of miss this. Yeah, I just want to say, I think everybody said like kind of what I was thinking, but it's been the most fun 2 years since I came back to B2B. And I think I've been spoiled where when I was searching, it was Gaetano and Chris's podcast. And I think it was Gaetano who shared it on his LinkedIn. I don't know which episode, 2 or 3. And then that was the start. And it's been so fun because the moment we implemented the full strategy, I think as marketers in our organization, we just had we could do a lot more, and we could push and explore. And I think that kind of leads me to the question that I have today. And when we're talking about spoiled, a lot of our marketers who enter our company, they get trained up on create demand, capture demand, and have that orientation. But what's funny is the last couple months, or I would say 6 months, like we all know that, you have to grow and people are recruiting you, or you're looking for new opportunities. But what we found is some of the people, actually quite a lot of them, have come back and said, hey, we don't want to take those positions because they are primarily lead gen positions. And we talk about some of the people that report to me, some of the people in others, that they can't, they just don't want to take those positions, even though they may be a little bit higher, maybe pay a little bit more, because they know that that's a kind of a dead end in terms of, or it's going to be a really tough situation for them to be on. So I guess the question is, what would be the advice to marketers who are in like the non-lead gen role, but need to grow their career? Do they take that lead gen companies and try to turn it around, even though it's going to be a tough sell, or do they stick with it? Like, I remember I've been pushing, it's like, hey, you know what? Refine Labs though is hiring. Go take a look at their stuff. But what's your advice in terms of growing your career if you don't want to take that path, especially in B2B SaaS, where it's still like, if you look at the job descriptions and the recruiters hiring, that is a primary like role or tactic that a lot of companies still employ, and they'll pay you a lot of money to just do that.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of really great athletes that went from being on a great team and moved and signed a 7-year contract with the shittiest team in the league, the Detroit Lions or something like that, and got paid $200 million over 7 years, and are in the history books, will be a nobody. Never win, have a winning season, never make the playoffs, never set any records, never be an MVP, that type of stuff. The team that you're on matters a lot, and it makes good players great players. And so I think anyone, and a lot of people know this, a lot of people that are on a great team and execute great marketing and have been in other companies before and recognize how rare it is, like an extra $20K a year is going to make you way less happy, and it's going to slow down your career. And so that's what I would say to people that are considering this, and I'm sure a lot of people are. But it just, like, for me personally, I'd rather be the 5th best player on a championship team than the best player on the worst team in the league, and that's just how I like to play it. There's other people that would play it differently, and that's totally cool. For me, and having tried this a couple of times, and now like companies hire us to basically like do this like turnaround thing. And it's like, it's a no-go. Like, if you, to leave and try and turn around a company that sucks as a marketing manager, director of demand gen, even a marketing leader, I think it's typically going to be a losing game. And I don't have a percentage, but I'd say more than 90% of the time, it's going to slow down your career. It's going to end up failing. You're going to waste a couple of years. People call this no rescue missions. You want to get, and it's sort of like the thing about the same thing as a podcast, you want to be on a team that's already on their way, where you can apply your gasoline to that fire rather than sitting around trying to convince people about that they should consider starting a fire in the first place. So that's personally what I would say to people. I think that you should look, every marketer that's a great marketer should be going to look to find out, how can I join the best team in the league? Great culture, understands marketing right, and leadership buy-in, appropriate budget, good alignment with sales, uses the right metrics, already executes a lot of these things in the wild. Their CEOs speaking at conferences, they're putting it on LinkedIn, they have all these great strategies. To go and join a team like that, because then you're going to go woof in your career. You're going to go from good to great. You're going to see all these things that are happening that underneath the hood, how do they work? I've never seen someone execute a podcast like that. I've never seen people run ads like that. I've never seen people be able to put out that much creative or content in one. How do they do that stuff? And you get in under the hood and you get to see, oh, this is how they set up the sales force. This is how the cadence that they meet with the sales team. This is the metrics that get reported on. And then you go from then you go to the next company and you find a CEO that's aligned, and that's the time where you join a Series A or B company that has alignment and you become a CMO. But you taking the stop in the middle where you see this is what a high caliber machine and team runs like, I think that is an experience that a lot of marketers skip, and they try and join a Series A company as a director level person. They get more money, and it ends up burning out because they don't have the experience of what good looks like. They don't have experience as a leader. They join for a high salary. They can't get the company on board, and they end up sort of either stunting their career or reverting back to something later after a year or two. So that would be what I would say.
G, do you want to weigh in?
And that was a absolutely brilliant answer. I'll just, and I agree with everything Chris said. It made me think about so much stuff as he was talking through it. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit on top of that. Chris said, like, I'd rather be the 5th or 6th best player on the team rather than always being the number 1 player or the all-star or whatever. I've always kind of been at a play. I don't want to make myself sound so great, but it always just seems like, why am I the only person here that has some fucking common sense? Why am I always spending so much time trying to convince people why something is a bad idea or why things shouldn't be done versus what should be done? So I as Chris was talking through that, I was kind of just reflecting back at my experiences at various types of companies, whether it be full-time in-house or consulting. And so much of my time is so much of my energy is drained by me having to explain why this is just completely nonsensical, why you're just doing something to make yourself feel good, and it's going to add no real value to the business. So if you're at a place like that, that's like a clear sign you need to get out of there. I don't know what you need to do next. I'm not saying you should start a consulting business or you go work at another company. Whatever it is you want to do, you can do. But if you're at a place like that, you should probably just try and get out of there as fast as you can. And why does that happen? And this is now really I'm starting to flow with this a little bit. I could feel like my experience is telling me stuff. But the reason this happens is because, like what you were saying before, Carl, they put people in functions and giving them metrics that just don't align to their strengths. And I can call it an example of this. I was consulting with a company recently that was having their product marketers produce PPC landing pages. And I'm like, all right, well, that is kind of why the performance is so bad. I definitely don't think product marketers should be writing PPC landing page copy. It's just completely out of their element. And there's many examples of this. You can talk about paid social versus organic social as well. Having somebody who's more kind of a brand marketer now suddenly responsible for doing like paid social lead gen, and there's many other examples we can talk through, but this is the thing that kind of just comes to mind. Are you in an environment where you're just constantly, trying to get people back on track and prevent them from going off the rails? And are the right players and pieces in the right positions on the field? And do they have the proper assignments that not only align to like the channel intent, but like their own strengths? You don't want somebody who's very good at, base running to be playing catcher. And unfortunately, a lot of companies, this is why you have the mayhem that you have, is because they don't know how to assign proper tasks and assignments and OKRs, whatever you want, objectives, whatever you want to call it, metrics, all that stuff to the wrong people with the unmatching or misaligned strengths, skill sets. So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Carl, for the great question. It's good to have you on tonight. I am going to bring on another DGL community member who's been with us for a long time. And I think this is going to be our closing question. I'm going to call it now, and then we'll wrap up to some closing thoughts. Pablo, I saved you for last. I'm not even sure what you're going to ask, but you never disappoint me. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Megan. I really appreciate the way that you've moderated this stuff, and the welcoming environment that you build is deliberate and really, really appreciated, and adds a ton to this. I kind of showed up today I generally only come when my wife is out of town, but today is obviously a special night. so made this special, and I just really am here out of gratitude, right? I nobody ever says, when you tell somebody that you're building an agency, nobody's ever like, oh, great idea for a business model, bro. Like it's never, nobody that does it tells you that. And nobody that knows business advises you that it's a great idea. So the value that you all have shown here of how to do something like this in a really, really scalable fashion, do it right, and make it really work for everybody involved, and make it win-wins for everybody involved is really, really inspiring. Chris, I've been, following your lead this whole time, right? From the idea that I'm building a product around like a not a great product, even in your opinion right now, right? Like I've learned the importance of customer research from you. I've learned the importance of niching into an audience from you. I've learned the value of evangelizing a point of view and evangelizing your culture. I've learned the importance of culture and those things just by watching you and Megan execute. And now I'm like learning the value of like standardizing data across customers to build like a competitive data flywheel, which is what I kind of see you guys doing from the outside, which I think is really, really brilliant. And I have a one more question as an operator. As I understand kind of as I try to figure out what your life is looking like now that you've reached this point of scale, I would love insight into your daily schedule, and starting with how you prioritize, right? Like I have my team repurpose my group call and give it to me and post a lot. And I'm realizing that I need to post it myself, or at least I'm seeing from you that you post it yourself, right? Like you are the one writing your own copy and distributing it. And I would love some insight into kind of what that looks like from the time that you get handed your content and then you go to post, or how you judge what you're going to do on a daily basis, or who judges that. And just in general, your schedule overall of how you prioritize, leading such a high performance team.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for all the kind words, Pablo. And it's been awesome to get to know you and see you on this journey and where you're at. So that's awesome. To address the social part first, I continue to write the copy because it gives me the insights. So one is it gives me the insights, right? So I want to test new stuff. I want to try new things. So it's a form of art for me. It's the same reason why I do the speaking. I do speaking because it allows me, in like things like this, it allows me to express ideas that I've never expressed before, because it puts me in situations where I get interesting questions like this, like I've never answered before. So I get to learn a lot of those things. Secondarily, I think that there's a real misunderstanding at the executive level about what's required in order to actually create demand. And having someone else write copy for you typically means that it's commodity level copy, right? There's not many people that, if I didn't do this for the past 3 years, I find it very hard to believe that this stuff would have turned out the way that it did, right? I just don't think that you can outsource you can't outsource your company story. When it comes to my day-to-day, generally what I've done is I've broken my days, and this is a recent change, so I don't have tons of data on whether or not it's helpful, but I'm bullish on the impact. I've broken my days into key pillars, because what I found is that task switching from zoom, 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 let's think about strategy for an hour, zoom, 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 let's try to get strategy, and switching back and forth between running the business and thinking about the future is just very challenging for my brain. And where I provide the most value to the business today, given all the amazing people that work here, is really on getting the insights from customers, thinking about where are we going to, what are the key moves that we need to make from how we're allocating resources, what projects we're going to work on, how we're going to design the business, and where we're going in the future. So that's sort of like where I focus. And I've broken my days into buckets in order to allow that to happen. So Mondays are focused on what I call team. I have one-on-ones, the actual all-hands team meeting, executive meetings, like all of it is related to internal team meetings on Mondays. I do skip level one-on-ones with a bunch of different employees on Mondays, so I get to understand things that are working, things that aren't. So Mondays are for team. Tuesdays are like category design and evangelism. So I'm focused on working through in the morning, like continuing to design the category, visuals, images, ideas, like parallel concepts. And we're getting very close to actually like having something. I think I'm going to be announcing it to the team, like discussing it with my team on Thursday, and we're going to start to actually roll that out and get it into production. So that is something that has created a lot of space for me to do that. And then the other half of it is going out and doing podcasts, doing Demand Gen Live, speaking about the things that we believe in. So it's not only the design and the messaging, but also communicating that on a consistent basis. Wednesdays focus on pure strategy, so it's product strategy. Megan and I have a really long meeting in the afternoon where we typically talk about forward-thinking strategy, and I block 5 hours where I'm focused on what products are we going to build, how are we going to put resources in the right place to make these happen. If we moved this team to this department, would it accelerate a bunch of things that we're working on right now? So I get space to do creative thinking, where if I was switching back and forth between Zooms, I would never have the space to come up with those types of ideas. So it's more deep work. Thursday is team, customer, and market insights. So I'm spending time doing things with customers. So sometimes customers want help figuring out getting to the next level on their podcast, and I would take that call because it's insights for me, right? I'm not doing that as a service that I do for all customers, but I'll take it to get insights and help our customer at the same time. I'll book, sometimes where I'll actually run a couple of sales calls on that day so I can test messaging and get insights. I will, again, have meetings with our company teammates that work at the company to collect more insights on the team and what's going on there. So that whole day is focused on getting insights. And then Friday, I have an open day, which is typically whatever major strategic project I'm working on. I have a whole day on Friday with no pressure to work through that with space, which has been very effective for me. Inside of all that, in the morning from 8:30 to 9 a.m., I have a block where I'm going through picking a video that I'm going to choose, right? So for LinkedIn specifically, I'm going to pick this, go through, sort, pick a video that I feel inspired to write about, and write the copy, which is a very challenging thing to do all in 30 minutes, and I make it happen. And I do that typically Monday, Tuesday. I don't usually do Wednesdays because I'm not up at the right time because of Demand Gen Live. Throws off my sleep schedule from Tuesday to Wednesday, but we're going to correct that as we change the time slot. So I don't do it on Wednesday, but then I do it on Thursday and Friday, so it's typically 4 days a week. I'm trying to up the cadence on that. The team helps a lot with other channels, like the team runs YouTube 100%. I run LinkedIn, and the team runs the podcast, writing the copy, posting the episodes 100%. And then LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok are 100% me, is how we've sort of split it up so far.
Awesome. Super valuable, man. Happy to still have the opportunity to pick you and Megan's brain as you guys before you head off into the stratosphere. Last question, just super. It sounds like you're probably not ready to announce it, and there's stuff coming out, but I'm just really curious. That conversation between you, Megan, and Christopher Lockhead was the best, and I'm just really curious to know what advice he gave y'all for designing the category that you can share, or what that was like.
So Megan and I both got together after that call, and I was just like, why the fuck didn't we record that? But it
was after the podcast. We talked to him for another hour.
We talked to him for an hour a couple weeks later, and it was the catalyst to our the breakthrough idea, which then led to the category strategy, which then has led to the product strategy, and a lot of things have. It was amazing. The guy, we talked to him we did the podcast, but then when we did a session with him, we talked to him for 10 minutes, and he was like, I got the idea, but I got to tell you this first. I got to tell you that when I say this, you're going to think that this should have taken longer, and you're going to spend 8 weeks trying to figure out a different thing, but I'm pretty sure this is the thing. And he said it, and it's the one that we decided to go forward with. It was like 10 minutes, and he put it forward. So the experience, right? I don't have that level of experience like he does working with a lot of companies, and so sometimes you just need someone to give you that little bit, right? It was just 3 words that he delivered, and those 3 words then led to a ton of creative work and inspiration from me and other people at the company that I'm proud of. So just given that I want my team and my company to be the first ones to hear this in the right setting, I'm not going to share more than that, but I'm really looking forward to launching it to the rest of the public later, probably in July.
I can't wait to hear it. All right, man. Thank you. Just thank you to both of you. I think that you all know what I think your trajectory looks like. I feel really fortunate, and I hope everybody is cognizant of being able to interact with you and Megan at this stage right now, and really pumped to see what the future holds for both of you and the rest of your team, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pablo.
Thank you, Pablo. All right, G and Chris, I'm going to say a couple of thank yous and get in a quick closing remark, and then I'm going to tee you guys up to close us out with closing thoughts. You'll be after me, G, so I'm giving you warning so you can prepare a couple things you want to say to wrap us up, and then Chris, I'll let you close us out with any final thoughts, our final closing thought segment on this series of DGL. So Chris, you said this in your opening, but I just wanted to give a quick shout out to all the people behind the scenes that make Demand Gen Live possible. Thank you so much to Angelica, to Miles, to Todd, to David, to Amir, to Adam, to Courtney, to Cassidy, to MJ, who was here before. There's so many people that contribute to that core crew. Is that you, Chris?
Sure isn't.
I just wanted to say thank you so much to the core crew that really makes this happen. I know that although you're not on the live show, we could not do this without you, and the dedication and the quality of work is amazing. I also just want to say thank you to all of you on the call. As much as I love being Chris's sidekick on this show, the most fun that I have is in the chat and hanging with all of you guys, cracking Fern jokes, catching up on what's going on in your lives, bringing you guys on to chat through different questions that you have. I felt I've made so many great connections with all of you, and I will treasure that, and I look forward to keeping those connections going. It's been a blast. Thank you to Chris for letting me join you on this awesome ride, and for all of the episodes that we've done together. It's a pleasure to podcast and to do live events with you. You're a pro. And Gaetano, I feel like we've been getting to know each other a little bit better as of late, and it's been really, really awesome. You're such a real person, such a big heart, and I look forward to continuing to get to know you as well. So that's my quick closing, and I will pass it to you, Gaetano, to share a little bit before we have you close us out, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Appreciate the kind words. I don't really have anything super powerful or super enlightening for you guys. Maybe I'll just kind of keep it short and sweet this time around. I really enjoy every week that I've been doing this with Chris and Megan, hearing the questions, learning a lot from you guys, hearing where you guys are just like curious about how to get better, or maybe where you're struggling in your company's marketing strategy. It always just kind of takes me to a place, and it helps me kind of step outside of my own comfort zone and level, and put myself in a different marketer's shoes and think, damn, how would I deal with that? How would I respond to that? And sometimes the answer is abandon ship, just it's a lost cause. Sometimes it's like there is some things that can be done to improve this. But I just would say thank you all, and thanks, Chris, for getting this started with me, giving me that nudge in the beginning, and just seeing how Refine Labs has blossomed is super cool to see. It's like I always say, it's a movement. There's a lot of marketers that show up every week hungry to get better, and that's what it's all about: stepping up your marketing game, stepping up your career, and ultimately your life. So just thank you guys again. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, G.
Cool. I'll close this out real quick. I said pretty much all that I wanted to say at the beginning. And so for me, this has been a really special episode. I think that as I reflect on this entire journey, when I look back, I will reflect on this as one of the most pivotal things that I did in my career. And so I appreciate you all being a part of that. I'll remember a lot of you forever, and continue to be grateful for your participation and your support. And I'm thrilled and excited because I'd love to announce what we're going to do, but I honestly I haven't figured it out yet. I want to be thoughtful and think about what's the next evolution that's going to be really valuable to people, where we can get this we can take this to the next level, and a lot of you can also sort of like elevate to the next level. So I'm going to continue to think about that. We'll continue to have the events going, so we're not just going to like take a month off. So stay tuned for what we're going to do, but would love to see you all there. I actually think that when we add a lot more accessible times, we'll open this up to more time zones. We'll get better participation from Europe, which I just was, and there's a lot of people there that can't attend this event because it's at somewhere between midnight and 5 a.m. for them. And so I'm looking forward to opening this more up to Europe. I think that we might actually get better participation from other areas of the world as well. I think that U.S., when you think about the amount of people that have families and other priorities that are in their life from a 7:30 p.m. or a 5 p.m. Pacific time standpoint, like there's a lot of people that aren't able to actually get a lot of the value that's delivered from this event because of the time slot that was chosen, which was an incredible choice when when the pandemic was happening and everyone was sort of at their house. But as the world continues to evolve and hopefully return to a more normal space, that I think that changing the time zone changing the time slot will help a lot of people be able to access the content and the information in this event. So hoping for you all to stay tuned. Really appreciate you. And it's weird to say, but I sometimes close out episodes with "see you next Tuesday," but this time we maybe might see you next Tuesday, but not at 7:30 p.m. And appreciate you all being here and for your support, and look forward to what